Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark, a live stream about all types of pop culture. I'm Final Monkey, and
And
with
I'm
me,
Caleb.
and
Oh,
there's Caleb. We'll figure out this intro. We're still new to this, so
yeah.
how have you been, Caleb?
I've been doing well, just vibing through life. This week was actually kind of a chill week. I finally got some time to like sit down and start watching some TV that I hadn't seen before. Last night actually, um I had started watching, and I'm not really an HBO person. Like, I tried Game of Thrones and it just wasn't my thing. Um, but I started watching True Detective, that first season on HBO Max.
Hmm.
It's pretty interesting. Like, I see what all the acclaim was for that first season, definitely, and I'm curious as to, because I know season two drops off hard, and I'm almost more curious as to how that drops off.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, just been able to chill out, and really it's because it's been chilly here. Like, we've been snowed in for about 3 days or so.
yeah. We got a rare ice snowstorm. It wasn't terrible, but it was enough to kind of shut the city down for a couple days.
Yeah, and I'm sure where you're at, they don't know how to deal with it as well.
No, we don't have snow plows or anything, so it's just kind
Yeah,
of like, well, it's
yeah.
here.
I mean, we have snowplows, but it's not like they know how to drive them.
Right,
It's the
right.
day. Honestly, I don't miss the snow from living up in the Northeast, but they knew how to deal with it. So that's what I miss.
Right. Alrighty, well, I've been doing pretty good. Um, just watching some YouTube. That's usually what I do is watch YouTube. So, um,
Hmm.
I tried to watch Vox Machina. I couldn't get into it. Turned that off.
Understandable. It's. Have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons before?
No, I mean
Yeah.
I know I've watched some other people play, and I know the gist of it, but no.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it's almost one of those things that I. It's interesting to hear the perspective from someone who hasn't played Dungeons and Dragons, because um, there are some things in there that a player might recognize as, whenever Percy's gun malfunctions, that's definitely him rolling a
Right. So
natural one.
right, he's rolling the dice, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, it was just it felt like it
Yeah.
was just being raunchy for the sake of being raunchy, and I was like, okay,
It
so I
it
turned
def
it off.
no, it definitely okay, I will admit it's pretty raunchy. The reason for that definitely is the fact that, like, their home game, which is what it's based off of, was raunchy, and I know they wanted to keep the spirit of their game, which
Yeah,
I understand. I definitely think that they could have toned it down for a wider audience, but I mean,
yeah,
that's just, a selection that they made. To that It's just a selection that they made, I guess.
yeah. All right, well, let's move on to news. This week was a very boring episode of Book of Boba Fett, so we have nothing to talk
Yeah.
about there. Nothing happened, so
So here's the thing. I actually haven't seen it yet.
you haven't seen it.
No, I watch it with my parents, and they've been down in
Oh,
Florida.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've on a trip.
I have been spoiled about it, and I know that and I've been acting like I haven't
Oh,
been spoiled. I've been pretending, but
okay, so
there's
let's give a spoiler warning for
yeah,
anybody that
yeah.
hasn't seen it. We're gonna
No,
talk
no,
about the next few minutes.
yeah.
So
Well, I wasn't even gonna spoil. I was just gonna pretend like it didn't exist, because
okay,
I've heard that there is a very popular character that is one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time that appears in that episode, and I'm pretending like I don't know, so that way I can
yeah.
freak out when I finally see it.
Yeah, I mentioned it to my wife. I was like, "You remember when Caleb dressed up like for that for Halloween?" She's like, "Oh, is that who that was?" I was like,
No,
"Yeah, yeah,
it was a bad cause. Well, we total that was definitely like, oh yeah, we just moved here and we're planting a church and we're poor. So face paint and Star Wars blasters
I,
that I already had.
I thought it was a good effort. So,
Oh yeah. Oh no. Whenever I finally see the episode, I'm like, hey, remember who the first live action version was?
there are so many things that happen in this episode, and I'm like, okay, I think this week is the final episode, so
Yeah.
I have guesses of where it's going, but
Yeah.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
And
do have.
in
Okay, go
terms
ahead.
of in terms of spoilers, I think, like I said, we could probably save Boba Fett for next week, so that way we can talk about the season and the series as like a whole if we want to.
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors about this week's episode going around on the internet, and if they're true, it's going to be a pretty wild ride. So, um, we also had some breaking news this afternoon, and please file this under a rumor for right now. This is unconfirmed,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks like Pablo Hidalgo. Do you know who that is?
I don't. Oh no,
He,
is that okay? He's a Star Wars guy, right?
yeah, he's like one of their main story editors of their story group.
Yes.
The rumor is that he's been fired, and he basically on Twitter he removed all references to Star Wars from his and being like an employee at Disney from his profile.
Mm-hmm.
So the rumor is that that's a signal that he has been let go. Um, I take no joy in people losing their jobs. However, he has been one of those people that has bashed fans for years, and
Yes.
under his watch, we have gotten stuff like Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and
Oh wait, wasn't he the one that like whenever
the Star Wars theory guy.
yeah, with the Star Wars theory guy, I guess spoilers for Mandalorian season 2, but it's been long enough. Whenever Luke shows up and like, everyone's crying and Star Wars theory specifically is in tears and like he was like making fun of him and stuff. And I'm
Right.
like, come
Right.
on.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I have a huge problem with when creators or directors or writers or whoever goes on Twitter and bashes their fans. I don't get it.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if you don't agree with them about politics or religion or whatever, I don't get what you're doing. Those are people that are giving you money for your services, and it's like, why are you attacking them? So
Right.
that's a huge pet peeve of mine. It's like, what are you doing? And it, I'm talking about this guy Pablo Hidalgo. I've got his books over there on my shelf. I think he wrote like the Star Wars character guides and the G.I. Joe character guide. So I've got his books over on my shelf. But it seems like in recent years, and we try to avoid politics on here, just the culture war of you be on this side or that side or whatever. He's been becoming more of an activist and less of caring about the brand. So
right, exactly. And so here's a question then: how do you think this will affect the brand if the rumors are true?
well, I mean, you got to kind of look at the whole picture. Is Kathleen Kennedy also being pulled away and more towards Indiana Jones and less in control of Star Wars? If that's true, and if he's gone also, then I feel like these are people that are kind of in Filoni and I can't think of the other guy's name.
Favreau?
Yeah. These are people that are in their way of
Right,
what they want to do. So if they're getting out of the way, because if you look at, and someone mentioned this online, and looking back, I totally agree. The first half of the Boba Fett season's a mess. It's like all over the place, like tonally, and it's like night and day between those and episode 5.
Yes. And honestly, the episode 5 and what I thought and what I'm thinking episode 6, because once again I haven't seen episode 6 yet, but I've heard pretty much everything about it. That's kind of the show that's not the show I thought we were getting, but I think that's the way you make the Boba Fett show. Is the Boba Fett show is not just the Boba Fett show, but also kind of the Tatooine show,
Well, I feel like they named the season wrong. They should just call it The Mandalorians, and then it doesn't matter who it's about. As long as it's something about Mandalore, then who cares? Who's the star? But what I was going to say is, if you look at what was happening a year ago, that's when they fired Gina, and so there was turmoil behind the scenes, so I'm sure that affected. Not that she was going to be in it, but that affected the first half of the season. Them trying to figure out, okay, we got to rework all of this.
Yeah.
So I think that it feels like they had to skip some chapters. They had to move this around, that around, whatever. And
Well, I also have some theories, and we can talk more about this next week. But do you remember who was? Because before Solo came out, they were the next in line was Obi-Wan, a Star Wars story, and Boba Fett, a Star Wars story. And then once Solo came out, and I think it's a great movie, it didn't do commercially as well, and so they pulled all the other anthology movies. Do you remember who was set to head up and direct the Boba Fett one?
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't.
It was James Mangold, and he did Logan.
Okay.
And so I think if you look at those first 4 episodes from the perspective of maybe they took some ideas from that script, which may have been similar to Logan, about like someone who at once was an animal and is now, down, and they've gotten older, and a little bit more chill. I think it's not great, but I think it just makes a little bit more sense. That those first 4 episodes, I wasn't surprised. Like, knowing that Mangold was going to be doing the Boba Fett movie, I wasn't surprised at all about those first 4 episodes. I really got what I expected.
Yeah, and we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. It could be that there was, there's different factions. Pablo Hidalgo and Kathleen Kennedy wanted this to
Right.
happen. Favreau
Yeah.
and Filoni wanted this to happen, and so you got this disjointed mess. And now it's kind of like, okay, now it seems like Favreau and Filoni are like totally in charge now, and now we're seeing. Like I said, I won't spoil last week's, but it was like pure Star Wars. It was like the most Star Wars thing I have seen in quite a while. I was like, oh, this is Star Wars. This is what I've been missing.
Right,
So.
right. And I'll go ahead and let this be known too, just to get it out there. I love all of the. I'm kind of a Star Wars fanboy. Look at my icon. It's Darth Revan. So when it comes to movies and shows, I'll watch and enjoy anything. The only one that I would probably put in a net negative aspect would be Rise of Skywalker, just because that one is kind of just a jumbled mess. But just to get it out there, I like Last Jedi. So we're gonna get that out there. It's out on the internet.
We will have a episode about that another week about our. We're both Star Wars fans, but we have totally different opinions, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't like when people are like, oh, you like this movie and I don't. Well, I can't be your friend. That's just dumb. People have different opinions.
Here's the thing. Like, we found out last week that I love Iron Man 3. I'm used to being in the minority about films that people dislike, and I accept it. So I'm very much used to it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of movies we like, let's get into our main topic.
Yeah.
I'm calling it movie reruns. These are movies that doesn't matter what part of it's on. If you see it on TV, you just have to start watching it. You've seen it 1,000 times, and it doesn't even have to be a great movie. It's just a movie you enjoy watching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I will go first.
Sure.
My first pick is Fifth Element. It's not a movie that I think is. Let me say this: it's visually stunning. It's got some fun fights. The characters are all fun. Music's fun. I've seen this movie 1,000 times. Like I said, if you flip the channels it's on, I just have to start watching it. And I still don't understand the plot. I still have no clue what is going on in Fifth Element. I mean, I get the general gist. I gotta go get the stones and this and that or whatever. But I'm like, I have no clue what's going on. But this is fun.
Oh yeah. It's one of my favorites. I love it. In fact, I didn't see it until only a couple years ago, which is weird because my dad owned it for as long as I can remember. I remember seeing it on our DVD shelf, but I just never watched it until I was like, I think it was about like 20 or 21 when I watched it.
Right. Yeah,
But
it's just a it's a crazy film. I think it's like it's like based on French, science fiction,
yeah.
and it's just visually it's something you've never really see, and it's like I said, all the characters. Gary Oldman, he kills me in this movie. He's so good,
Oh
and
man.
just Bruce Willis and everybody, and of course Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker, that's who I wanted to bring up. Oh man. Have you ever seen that SNL skit where they were doing the Star Wars auditions for Force Awakens, and they had Chris Tucker come in dressed as his character from Fifth Element?
I think I have. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe I have. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's out of anything to come out of Fifth Element. I mean, first of all, there is Mia Jovovich's bright orange hair. I think that is just that is iconic at this point. And then, of course, Chris Tucker's character, like,
the thing about his character is when he first comes on screen, he's so annoying. You hate him. You're just like, what
right,
is this? And then by the end of the movie, you love him. You're like,
right,
oh, this
right.
guy's great.
No, it's one of those things that you kind of got to. Honestly, I think I might describe the whole movie like that. It's definitely one of those things where you're watching it at first and you're like, what am I even watching? But like, it's one of those movies that wins you over.
Yeah.
It's and honestly, I think it's one of those movies that, like, if you show someone Chris Tucker's character or Mia Jovovich's character, it's like, it looks familiar. They've seen it, but maybe they haven't seen the movie.
Right.
Um, and
Yeah, her outfit and everything is so iconic. You see people dressed up as that all the time at conventions and stuff. It's
yeah. Even in an episode of The Office, Kelly, one of the characters, was dressed up as her for Halloween. So it's definitely there's a sort of iconography that comes with people knowing what you are despite not ever seeing the movie.
Right. All right. So what's your first movie?
So my first movie, and first of all, once again, big Star Wars fan, so Star Wars can fit in anywhere, but I'll have plenty of time to talk about Star Wars in the future. My first movie is actually my favorite movie of all time, which is The Nice Guys. Now, The Nice Guys is directed by Shane Black. And, it's funny we bring up Nice Guys because I was actually watching it last night. Not even in preparation for this. I just wanted to watch it. The Nice Guys is one of those movies where I didn't go in like expecting anything. What it was I was actually listening to a podcast, and there's this guy on the podcast who I tend to typically agree with. Only a few things we don't agree on, and he brings up, and he loves Iron Man 3. And so he brings up this movie that I hadn't heard about, that was by the director of Iron Man 3 and the writer for Lethal Weapon, Shane Black. And so they decided to talk about this movie, and I hadn't even heard of it. So the next day I went to Redbox and I picked it up. I watched it and I immediately pressed play again. Like, it was just that much fun and that amazing a movie. I've never pressed play immediately after watching a movie before. Now, I'm going to go ahead and assume that most people haven't heard of this, or if they have, they don't know much about it. What it is it's a film that takes place in the 70s, starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. And it is about a private eye played by Ryan Gosling and kind of a muscle man, like a bruiser, like people pay him to like rough people up if like they're getting around, stay away from my daughter or anything like that is one of the things. And so it's about them two who are working on separate cases, but things happen, they come together, and it's kind of a buddy cop comedy. And it eventually involves the Detroit automobile industry. And I mean, it's one of those that, it goes all the way to the top, and it's a really cool mystery. And it's one of those that really necessitates multiple viewings. And it's hard to talk about because I don't want to spoil anything, because I definitely want to make you watch this at some point.
Yeah, so I have not. Well, let me rephrase that. I have seen the opening scene of this movie several times. It's one of my favorite jokes of all time, and I rewatched that part, and then I just turn off the movie. So I don't know really what the rest of the movie is, other than these are kind of the replacement cops.
Oh no, okay. So the Nice Guys is different. You're thinking of The Other Guys.
Oh, I am thinking of The Other Guys.
Yeah, you're thinking of Aim for the Bushes.
Yes, I am thinking of Aim for the Bushes. Okay, well, I haven't seen this one either.
Okay, yeah. No, I love The Other Guys too. I love buddy cop comedies. It's my favorite. I love all of them. But no, because I mean, I definitely want to get you to watch this one. Like, it's one of those things where they will put an idea in your head, and it's not even a setup and payoff thing, but it's like they'll put an idea in your head, and then you'll think about it later on in the movie, and it just makes it really interesting. It's a movie that trusts its audience. Like, there's a fight scene between Russell Crowe and Keith David, and at the beginning of the fight, Russell Crowe's gun gets knocked into a hot tub, and then they fight. And typically what you would do is, like, you would have a bunch of jump cut shots to the gun in the hot tub, but no, they're just fighting. And so the whole fight scene happens, and then Keith David kind of dunks him in the hot tub, and then he shoots him through the hot tub. And I don't think that we do movies like that anymore. Because, like I said, we would have a bunch of jump cuts to the gun, but yeah, I mean, it rewards its audience for paying attention.
Yeah, so I really cannot stand most modern fight scenes in movies just because of the jump cuts, and if it's done really poorly, it becomes almost unwatchable. So yeah, I agree.
It's definitely a problem that. So the Bourne movies do them well, but it's the effect that the Bourne movies had on fight scenes that's the problem.
Yeah.
So Nice Guy, and a lot of these movies, because I don't have like cable or anything, so it's not like ones that I'll just see them on TV. These are ones that I probably would have seen on TV if I had cable. But like, if I'm scrolling through Hulu or Netflix, HBO Max, and I see it, I'll probably stop looking for something to watch and turn one of these on.
Right.
So yeah, Nice Guys, it's actually my favorite movie of all time. So we'll definitely have to talk about that in the future.
Yeah. Speaking of the future, here's my next one.
Hey,
it's the Back to the Future trilogy. I don't know how familiar you are with these movies. I'm sure you've seen them.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely familiar with these.
Okay. These are, if you've never seen Back to the Future trilogy, you have to watch it, and it deserves multiple viewings. You'll start noticing that things they set up in the first movie pay off in the second movie, pay off in the third movie, and there's all these references going back and forth. And like, just for example, it's the Lone Pine Mall, or the Twin Pine Mall at the beginning, and then he hits a tree in the past, and now it's the Lone Pine Mall when he gets back. So he's changing the future stuff. Just so many cool references.
Oh yeah.
Just fun movies. Great, tension at the end of every movie. They have these climaxes where, it's just, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Just something that we don't really get in movies anymore.
Yeah.
Just so if you've never seen these, they are wonderful. Uh, to me, it's the greatest trilogy ever made.
It's definitely one of them for me. It First of all, that DeLorean is, if we're talking about iconography, that DeLorean, that purple, not purple, that orange vest uh, jumper thing that Marty has. Um, yeah, there's just so much about this movie. Let me ask you this, because I have a an opinion on this. Of the three, which one would you say is your favorite?
Back to the Future 3.
Three, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Because mine is the second one, and people tend to look at me weird for that one, but yours is three, so I bet you get even weirder
people
looks.
people hate 3. I love 3.
Yeah,
3 is so much fun.
oh yeah, I don't get why people hate three as much as they do. I'm a big Western fan. I love Westerns, and so it's cool to be able to watch that movie. And honestly, it's kind of weird. You don't expect it in a movie trilogy like this, but that movie really is a celebration of like Sergio Leone movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so those are great films. If you've never seen them, I highly recommend them.
mhm.
Just classic movies. All right, so what's your next one on your list?
This is actually going to be my personal favorite comedy of all time. It's a film called Superbad.
So what you're going to find out as we go through this live stream together over the next several episodes is I watch a lot of movies, but there are several movies I have never seen that are popular, and
Mhm.
this is one of those movies that I know everybody was loved, and I know everybody loves Mclovin and all that stuff, but I just have never seen it. I get a lot of the references just because I've seen the jokes everywhere, but I have never actually watched it.
Yeah, yeah. McLovin is definitely that whole scene with the fake ID is definitely one of the um greatest scenes of comedy of all time. It's up there with Aim for the Bushes.
Aim for the Bushes is so good.
um but yeah, so this is honestly it's this is a comedy that I don't think could come out now. Because things have changed with what people think is funny and what is acceptable to be funny. Um, but really, what this movie is just it's like raunchy Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which is funny because Diary of a Wimpy Kid like came out after this.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just these two best friends who have been best friends forever, and they get invited to that one final party on the condition that they bring the alcohol, which is why they get the fake ID that says McLovin so they can get the alcohol. Um, and then once they try to get the alcohol, things go awry, and then it's them trying to get alcohol in a different way and get to the party, so that way Jonah Hill is one of the main characters, so he can impress Emma Stone's character. And Michael Cera plays the other character. And so he's trying to impress this girl, and that's really what it comes down to is it is just teenage boys trying to impress teenage girls. And for me, it's almost a vicarious experience because I was homeschooled.
Right.
And so I didn't like go to school. I didn't go to parties. So for me, it's almost like I get to experience that through them. I know that that's not what it's really like, because movies are never like they are in the moment. Um, but I mean, so McLovin, the rant on tiramisu, um, the cops that pick up Fogel. There's just there's so much. It's a bunch of funny scenes just like kind of edited together, and they all kind of work on their own, but together they make up this movie that has been copied many times. And every time I've seen this movie copied, I watch it and I love them. But it's never as good as this one, because there was a movie called Booksmart, I think is what it was. And it was like this, but it was two girls who, are going off to college, and they spent their whole high school life just being bookworms and not doing anything fun. And so it's their last chance to do something fun. One of my favorites is one called Good Boys, which is about kids, and it's very much just about them trying to get to this party where, in a high school, it's about, wanting to sleep with the girl, but they're just trying to, in a kids movie about this, but it's not a kids movie because it's very raunchy.
Yeah.
That Good Boys, but instead of them, doing anything sexual, it's just, this is the party where they go in the basement and play spin the bottle.
Right.
And so every time I see one of these movies, I love them. But
have you seen Can't Hardly Wait?
Yes, I have. I do. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that's great.
But and really, what Superbad is, it's very much just kind of my generation's American Pie, because American Pie was like right before my generation, and so this is just this is my generation's American Pie, because it's a very similar plot to American Pie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's on Netflix, and so there are times where I'll have friends over, and we're scrolling through what to watch, and they love Superbad too. We all quote it all the time. That'll be one that I just throw on.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move on to my next one.
Yeah.
One that you're familiar with also, and that's Kung Fu Hustle.
Love this one.
One of my favorite movies of all time. Just anytime it's on, no matter which part, I'm in. I just
Yes.
Just the fights, the jokes, the dancing. It's all great.
Here's an interesting one, because I know what my answer is. Do you watch the sub or the dub?
I prefer the subtitled version.
Okay.
I don't think the dub is, because that's the way I originally saw it in the theaters. Was the subtitle version. So
sure, because I prefer the dubbed version, but that's the way I originally saw it. Because I think because you're the one who showed me this movie, but we just had the dubbed version. And so I guess.
And the frog guy is like a crossing guard now or something, or he's like been reformed.
Mm-hmm.
You see him like helping kids across the street or something. And a lot of the times when I watch it, that scene is just cuts away or it's not there. It's weird. So
okay. I think can we agree that the funniest scene in this movie is the knife scene?
The knives, that scene, and the scene where we first meet the main character and he's pretending to be part of the axe gang and he's picking a fight with everybody. All that stuff is just it's just funny. But yeah, the knife scene is incredible.
I think that is for me, physical comedy is for me it's difficult. And so whenever I think it's he's got all the knives in him, his friend pulls out the knife and then he's like, ow, and he's like, oh, sorry, and he puts it back in.
It's so good. Like
that one kills me. But it's also like, this movie also gets me in the feels.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely, it's a great one. And the not the main villain, because that's the leader of the axe gang, but like the final villain fight, the old guy.
Yeah,
that guy's awesome.
Yeah, I saw a video debate on YouTube the other day from the Angry Video Game Nerd, and they were discussing this one versus Kung Pao, and they all said Kung Pao was the better movie,
I
and I
don't
was like,
agree.
what are you talking about?
I don't
I
agree.
love, I think Kung Pao's very funny, but it's not anywhere near the quality of Kung Fu Hustle. It's
No, no, no. I mean, it's not. It's like comparing. I don't know.
But they
It,
all kind of admitted they hadn't seen either of these movies like 10 years, so I think they
oh,
were just going off
gotcha,
of memories, and
gotcha.
it's like there's no way. Like if you sat down and watch them both, it's totally
Yeah.
night and day difference between these two movies. So
No, this is one that I don't think it's streaming anywhere, but I have this really cool pink Blu-ray steelbook that has the broken lollipop on it.
mhm.
And it's one of my favorite steelbooks I have. Um, but no, yeah, I Kung Fu Hustle was the first one I saw, and then I eventually would go on to see like Shaolin Soccer and Journey to the West. So, uh,
Journey to the
yeah,
West.
yeah. And then of course Shang-Chi comes out and is kind of in parts kind of a love letter to movies like this.
Yeah. Uh, um, just we just mentioned Journey to the West. A great movie, a great follow up. Don't waste your time with Journey to the West too. It's terrible.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So, all
it's
right, what's your next one on your list?
my next one on my list is actually one that did you finish seeing this one? Because this is actually one where it was just on TV whenever y'all were visiting, and I happened to sit down and watch it. It's Baby Driver.
Yeah, so that was the first time I had seen it when I was over at your house for Christmas. So, um, yeah, I thought it was fun. I was kind of doing like distracted watching. We were, I was dealing
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
conversations in the room and stuff, so I wasn't, quite absorbing the full movie. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
it seemed like it was pretty fun.
Yeah. This is one that I saw the day it came out, and it was me and my brother were super psyched for it because um inadvertently you actually introduced me to this director Edgar Wright because you told me about this movie that was coming out called Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah,
And I was super excited. I would end up going to watch that, and then that's how I would get introduced to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and The World's End. And so Edgar Wright, probably my favorite director. So with Edgar Wright being my favorite director, me and my brother, day before it came out, we had like this three flavors Cornetto marathon, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. And then the next day we go and we watch Baby Driver. And I mean, I was just so blown away by it. I'm a big fan of music. And if you think that Guardians of the Galaxy utilizes its soundtrack to the most it can, watch this one because the it's amazing that the soundtrack actually goes with the goes with the what's going on in the movie. And I think the funny thing is, and I don't know if you ever ended up noticing, because it was kind of a hectic room, um, but it definitely took me a little bit to recognize the fact that things going on in the movie were reflecting uh, what was happening in the movie. So, like, whenever guns were being fired, they were being fired in synchronization with the drums of the soundtrack. Or, whenever Baby is walking down the street and it's like a jazz song, and the trumpets and saxophones are playing in the background. There's graffiti of trumpets and saxophones.
yeah,
uh, so I mean, it's one of those that utilize um, it utilizes its music very well, and it's an experience. It's one of my favorites, and it's one of those where there are certain actors in this movie or a certain actor where I have to forget. I just have to be absorbed in the movie so I don't think about it.
Yeah.
But Jamie Foxx is the star of this movie. John Hamm is fantastic. Ansel Elgort and Lily James, I mean, their chemistry is insane. And then even John Bernthal, who's only in this movie for like a scene, is fantastic. In fact, my favorite piece of trivia is the last thing he says before he gets off the elevator at the beginning is if you don't see me again, it means I'm dead. And he never shows up in the movie again, so you can just assume that he died.
That's pretty
It's
good.
yeah, it's one of my favorites, and it's such a cool. I love heist films, love Oceans, love Ant-Man is a great heist film, it's funny whenever you realize that Edgar Wright was going to direct Ant-Man, which was also a heist film. So how much of this is in relation to Ant-Man? So it's an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, Baby Driver, another movie that I have a steelbook of, and I'll watch it anytime, any day.
Very good. All right, here's my last one. This is an old '80s movie, Highlander.
This one I
You,
have not seen.
yeah, and when I was first introduced to it by a friend of mine, he's like, "You gotta watch this movie." And I started watching it, and I was like, "What the heck am I watching?" But it's one that I grew to love. Just a great cast. You got Christopher Lambert as the main character.
Mhm.
If you don't know who that is Raiden from the
Yeah.
first Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
The bad guy is Clancy Brown,
Oh, really?
Mr. Krabs, Lex Luthor from the cartoons, and he does a crazy performance. One of my favorite Clancy Brown performances.
So
Uh,
I'm gonna let you know about one thing. This is one of those movies I genuinely have no idea what this movie is about.
so,
I know that like there can only be one or something like
uh-huh,
that, and
yeah.
there's a sword, and I knew Christopher Lambert was in it. I know nothing else. I know nothing about this
So I
movie.
will tell you that Sean Connery is in it,
What? Oh my gosh.
and I don't think I'm going to tell you anything else about the movie.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what time frame it takes place. I don't know if it's an '80s modern movie. I don't know if it's a
Oh,
um,
I'll tell you this.
okay.
Uh, Queen does the soundtrack, and by I mean Queen does the soundtrack every time a song plays anywhere in the movie. It's a Queen song. So if
Okay.
like they walk into a bar, Queen song. Turn on a car radio, Queen song.
Okay,
So it's
gotcha.
like
Yeah, I didn't
it
know if
was.
it was I didn't even know if it was a medieval movie or anything.
Well, I'm not gonna spoil it. We will. In fact, let's go ahead and I'm gonna jump ahead a little ahead to the end segment here.
Sure.
And if we want to talk about your last week, we can. But
Yeah.
we're starting a new thing tonight called "He Made Me Do It." This will be the first one where I'm going to make Caleb watch Highlander.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and then next week he'll give me an assignment and he'll report back what he thought of this movie. And I'm not
mhm.
telling him anything really
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this movie. Just go for the ride.
Yeah.
It's a very '80s movie,
Yeah.
um, and it's kind of amazing.
Mhm.
Um, I will tell you this: if you fall in love with the world of Highlander, there are I think 3 or 4 sequels. They're all they're,
Okay.
they're all pretty terrible.
Okay.
So don't watch any of them. Uh,
So it's one of those movies where I have to like fall in love with the world and then just accept I'm never getting anything else.
there is a TV show.
Okay.
TV shows is not bad.
Okay.
If you're gonna explore any more of it, watch the TV show.
So let me ask you this then. So it's an '80s movie, right?
Right, and then one more thing: there's a cartoon show. Avoid the cartoon
Okay.
show.
So
Go ahead.
here's a question then. Would you say, and I'm just saying this because Christopher Lambert's in it, would you say it has a similar feel to the Mortal Kombat movie?
No,
No? Okay.
I don't think so. It's. I mean, there's some one-liners every once in a while, but yeah, character will say, but it's I just don't want to spoil it.
No, definitely. I mean, like, it very rarely do I go into a movie this blind and know not. Last time I went into a movie this blind, it was The Nice Guys.
Yeah, I just want you to watch the and be like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah. And so the idea with He Made Me Do It, it's not just going to be movies. Like, every so often, like, I might get you to watch a couple episodes of a TV show. I'm going to assume you're going to have me watch Arcane at some point.
Yeah, and the thing about Arcane is there's 9 episodes, but it's kind of like 3 episode story blocks. So I'd probably just have to do like the first 3 or something.
Yeah. And I'm going to assume you haven't seen all of Clone Wars, so I might have you watch an arc or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. It could also, we could force each other to read comic books.
Yes.
I know you're a big Tom King fan. I'm not. I've read a couple of his things, but I'm not really that familiar. I've read Vision.
Vision's great.
Maybe that's all I've read of his. I'm not sure. Yeah. So
yeah. Well, and with comic books, it'll be really interesting because you're more of a we really are. I'm a Marvel, I'm a DC, because you are more of a Marvel guy, and I'm definitely more of a DC person.
Yeah, I've got some plans for some pretty interesting episodes of this live stream regarding Marvel and DC that we will definitely get to probably the next month or so. I want to get a little bit more familiar with this software, what I can do, and what I can, displaying pictures and stuff. Before we get to that. But yeah, look forward to that. It's going to be a live stream. I don't think I've seen anybody do on Marvel or DC. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And speaking of DC, let's go ahead and segue into my last movie, which is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is a movie so my number 1 movie of all time is The Nice Guys. My number 2 is Return of the Jedi. My number 3 is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is the movie that I have definitely seen the most of all time. I have seen this movie. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this movie, because there was this one point, and this is the kind of stuff you get to do when you're bored and homeschooled. I started noticing that every time I saw this movie, I would notice something new, even if it was something small. And what really got me to do this experiment was there's a scene when in the hospital, whenever Joker holds the gun to his head and he has Harvey flip the coin, and he's gonna whether he lives or dies. If you notice, he's got his thumb on the filing pin, so even if he tries to pull the trigger, it won't fire. And so after I saw that, I'm like, so here's an experiment time. So I watched this movie, and I'm trying to remember how old I was. I think I was about 14 or 15. I watched this movie every day for like 6 months. Which is what you get to do when you're bored and homeschooled. So I've seen this movie so many times, and I never get bored of it. I will still watch it, even if it's on. I don't even have cable, and I know it's on TNT all the time. So if I'm what's up?
Go ahead. I was gonna say I've seen this movie in the theater, and I think I've seen it once since.
Oh no! So if I'm being honest, I picked Dark Knight. It really could be any of the movies in this trilogy. This is one of those that I think is one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Even Dark Knight Rises, even though people don't think it's as good as the other two, I think it lives up to the other two. It's just The Dark Knight is a hard act to follow, especially with Heath Ledger's Joker, which is honestly one of the greatest performances of all time, in my opinion. He's up there with the greats. Um, and I remember
Yeah.
I was, how old was I when this came out? I think I was like 11 when this movie came out, and there were so many things that surprised me that like even as an 11-year-old, like Rachel's death, that really surprised, because like, it's supposed to be one of those things that like, okay, so he's gonna go, he's gonna go save Rachel, and then because of that, his mistake um is gonna lead to Harvey becoming Two-Face. And it's like, oh no, 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 Harvey's gonna become Two-Face, but she's gonna die anyway. and it's
Right.
and it's like, oh man, like he made a choice and he still lost. And that's the brilliance of the Joker's plan. And then the scene where you think Gordon's dead, and honestly, like in a movie series like this, Gordon can die, and you believe it, and then he reappears, like, and catches him. I remember like the movie theater cheering whenever Gordon has the shotgun to Joker's face. But yeah, this is a movie that I will watch all day, any day. Honestly, I might watch it tonight just talking about it. Especially with the Batman coming out next month, which I'm also super hyped for.
And this is where we're opposites. I could care less about the Batman movie. So
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, it's definitely one of those. I'm a Marvel, I'm a DC. Like I can. It must say something where the least comic accurate Iron Man 3 is my favorite. That's got to say something.
and when we say we're Marvel DC, I have DC characters I love. I love Batman, Superman, and Flash, and
Oh yeah,
Booster Gold. And you have Marvel characters you love.
oh
It's
yeah,
not like we're
Daredevil, X-Men, love all of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's just we'll get to this in another live stream, but I'm just more. I could tell you just about anything about Marvel comics up to a point, and then you're probably the same way with DC.
Oh yeah.
And
I've always said that, like, the way to know if you're more of a Marvel person or more of a DC person is, would you be interested in an alternate reality of these characters? So like, would you rather read Flashpoint or House of M is really like the test for that, is what I've always said. And I would definitely rather read Flashpoint than House of M, just because, like, I love these characters and I want to see a different take on them.
yeah, I would rather. I don't know if I'd use House of M, but probably Age of Apocalypse.
Age of Apocalypse, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Which that's again, this is another life game, but Age of Apocalypse blew my mind when it was happening, because we didn't have internet back then, and we didn't know at the time. We didn't know if this was a permanent change. We were just like, "What is happening?"
there are some things that they're doing in comics now that, like, we could probably say the same thing, although with how the comics industry is changing drastically over the past couple months, we may never know, because what you're saying about Age of Apocalypse, I probably would have said about House of X as well.
Yeah.
Like, is this a permanent change, or what's happening? But honestly, with Hickman leaving the book, like, who knows?
Yeah, so we definitely need to do a comic book episode here soon.
Yeah.
So I think next week we'll do an official launch. This was another test live stream, but this one is going to be published, so it's out there. So if you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a comment, hit a like button. We will be happy to get some feedback. And I'm really interested to hear what Caleb has to say about Highlander. It's going to be really interesting.
I'm interested to see it because, once again, I know nothing about it.
And I feel like you're going to have a bunch of questions.
I'm sure.
It's got a lot of mythology that's a little convoluted.
Right.
So, but I'm very curious to hear your reaction. So
yeah, definitely.
it's a wild ride. I heard somebody compare Christopher Lambert's acting in it to Tommy Wiseau. I don't think I agree. I don't agree with that, but I think what they were trying to say is his accent. You can't really tell where he's from. It's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of this. You know,
I did not.
I did not hit her mark. Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, that's one of those movies I've never seen, but I feel like I've seen it a million times.
It it is a skin flick. I will tell you that. um, but I have the riff track version of it somewhere. It's it's crazy.
I'm sure. Like,
So
when it comes to riff tracks, I love watching as much as I love watching riff tracks of bad movies. Sometimes watching riff tracks of good movies can be just as entertaining.
oh sure, and I think the sign of a really good riff track of a bad movie is if the bad movie is still watchable even without the jokes. Like I think like Troll 2 is incredible. Have you ever seen Troll 2?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'll add that to the list.
Yeah, that's the thing about he made me do it. It's not just good stuff.
Oh yeah, Troll 2 is one of those you're like, what am I watching? This
No,
is just insanity.
there are some I don't know if I could watch, because the one that I remember the most, I don't know if I could watch Santa Claus Conquers the Martians without.
Oh no. Some of the more popular riff tracks, I don't think are that great. Like Manos Hands of Fate. I mean, it's funny, but it's not like my favorite. I find like it's a chore to get through, and I would say the same thing of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. But we'll have to do a whole riff track episode of our favorite ones. So, all right, but I think we're going to wrap it up here. Again, we'll be doing this next Sunday at 6 o'clock Eastern, hopefully. Today we were a little delayed, but that'll be our normal schedule going forward. So, all right, Caleb, I will look forward to hearing what you have to say about Highlander, and I will talk to you next week.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for watching or listening.
Bye.